It's now time to talk to Jodie McKay, the new leader of the Labor Party in New South Wales. Now, first question. I'm a bit new to this whole concept of rank and file getting a vote. In my day, that would have been unthinkable.
Do you support it, though?
Well, I wouldn't have when I was there. I think, you know, if I was to say anything else and look at my career, people would laugh at me. So, no, I wouldn't have supported it then. I believed in guided democracy, provided I was doing the guiding.
Yes. You can't guide the rank and file.
Well, I did for a long time.
No, you guided the caucus.
But no, it was a bit deeper than that. I think you get, well, I got to a point, I think, where the rank and file were pretty happy and
they were
in respect of we showed them how to win, and they liked winning. They get used to it.
Yeah.
Are you going to show them how to win?
I am. Do you want me to talk about the rank and file process?
Yeah, I think the first thing to say is, are you satisfied, A, that 60% of eligible voters voted?
Yes. So we had some 18,000 letters that went out to our rank and file, and we had just over 11,000 people who voted. Now, in the rank
I was
and
one.
file... Did you? I won't ask who you voted for.
I voted for you. No question about it. There was never any question of who I was going to vote for.
Thanks, Richard.
My wife voted for you as well. So
Thank you.
got 2 out of our household.
That's great. That's over, well, I got 6,500 votes and you were 2 of those, so I'm very, very pleased.
We were critical too.
Yes. But let me say to you, the process itself was extraordinary because, so we had a month-long process. It was far too long, but we got to travel the state. Chris and I went out. Chris Minns, of course, who was my competitor in this process. We went out around the state, and I learned a lot about how our party membership feels about some of the issues that we're tackling or not tackling, but also about our party structure. So it was a wonderful experience. I really...
What did you learn about the structure?
Well, they talked about the fact that there is very little guidance or ability for them to contribute into policy. This was the first time, really.
They were complaining about that when I was there.
I know, but
they were complaining about that before I was there.
I'm going to fix it. I don't know how, but I'm going to fix it.
I was going to say, it's very hard to fix.
I think it's a respect, though. It's paying them respect, and I'm not sure the party does that as well as what it could. But they
respect. That's an interesting way of putting it. But all I know is that it's, you can go out and visit as many branches as you can and all that. And I certainly, when I was party secretary and then later on as a senator, did as much of that as I could.
Yes, but I think that was you. I'm not sure that there are some people within our party who do it as well as what they should do it. And well,
I remember an example of that.
Yeah.
All the senators. It's an interesting story. All the senators in New South Wales always were allocated electorates.
Yes, so, Judy MLCs we call them.
So,
got that too.
Judy senators.
Yeah.
And so we would, I think I had Lyne as an example.
And these were seats we didn't hold.
That's right, seats we didn't hold. And I would go to the Lyne FEC meeting at Nabiac. It used to be near Taree.
I grew up in that area.
Well, there you go. They used to have it there most of the time, but I would always go.
Yeah.
I think, you try and fly the flag in the bush and you do the right thing. And if you can get senators to do that, it has, I think, a quite profound effect because it does make the rank and file feel like they are being respected.
I agree. And I think the senator level, or with in our case, the members of the Legislative Council, I think sometimes because they don't have electorates and are not necessarily elected by citizens, I think sometimes they are a little bit removed from what's happening. So
well, to say how removed they are, I remember...
You would never have been
Diamond Jim
removed.
McClelland, whom many of you will remember, older ones remember, brilliant speaker, and an absolutely horrible human being. Absolutely horrible, as distinct from partly horrible.
Remind me not to get on your bad side.
And I remember I said to him, when he was elected, I was party secretary, and I suggested a couple of electorates he might become the duty senator for.
Yes.
Our Jim was having no... I haven't been elected to go to effing Coonamble, he said to me. I have been elected to serve the people, and I do that best by staying in Sydney. And so
that's what he did?
He never went anywhere. Not a FEC anywhere ever did he visit.
But can I say to you, Richo, one of the issues we have is not, if we don't go anywhere, we're not going to build that bridge with rural and regional New South Wales.
Oh, no, you have
and
to.
I despair that we still have people in rural New South Wales in particular that aren't happy with the National Party here in New South Wales but still can't bring themselves to vote Labor. And what I've been saying is that our values are universal values. We need to get out there, tell them what that means for them, and they should be voting for us. It's one of the tasks I've set myself.
Because there was a time I came into Parliament just after it ended or was ending, where, you know, Terry Sheehan had a seat in the bush based around Cootamundra.
Charlie, of course, stood recently for us in
and we had,
Cootamundra.
you know, we had the old former Premier who was Jack Renshaw up in Castlereagh. We had a few of these very successful country politicians, but when they stopped, we stopped.
You know, so can I tell you, we've just appointed the deputy, Yasmin Catley, who's the member for Swansea. She is the first deputy in that leadership role since Renshaw. 60 years, the first time we've had someone from regional New South Wales.
Is that right?
Yeah. So she's the deputy. We've got 2 women in our party leading now.
It's pretty remarkable.
It is.
I actually don't know her.
She's fabulous, you know. She sort of came out of nowhere to take this because, but really highly regarded by her colleagues, feels very deeply about what's going on in the Hunter region. She was in Sydney for a time. Her husband was the former member for Swansea, Robert Coombs. You know, deep entrenched.
I remember
police
Robert
with the
Coombs.
MUA. Do you? Yeah, nice guy, Robert.
Yeah, I remember Robert Coombs.
And Yasmin's doing a super job.
I remember when he won. I think I had a bit to do with that. I had a bit to do with a lot of things over the years. But no, I remember Robert Coombs. I didn't realise she was his
Yes.
wife.
So I'm not sure how many times in New South Wales we've actually seen a male MP then followed by his wife taking the seat. But now she's our deputy leader and she's doing a sterling job. And we announced our shadow cabinet today.
Now, I was just about the shadow cabinet. Who's got the big jobs?
Well, we've got Walter Cord, who's taken on Treasury. We've got Ryan Park, of course, who was the Treasurer. He wanted health, and he's also taking on housing and homelessness because I've made that a priority. Kate Washington is taking on environment and heritage. And Chris Minns, who stood against me, he's taking on my oil portfolio, which is one of the highest profile portfolios, of course, one of the toughest portfolios in transport. And John Graham is also taking on roads. So we've got 8 new faces coming into the shadow cabinet as well, so generational change. I'm really pleased with the way it's shaped up.
As a person looking at the future and not simply at today and the past, how much emphasis do you put on rail as against road? On making sure that you've got the public transport way of doing things rather than... if you spend lots of money on roads, I keep telling people, all it does is when you get to the traffic jam quicker, but you still get there.
Yeah.
You still stop.
You keep moving the traffic jam down the road. We have said, and when I was Shadow Transport Minister, and I will keep saying this, that we're going to prioritise public transport over toll roads. You know, we are the most tolled city in the world, Richo. Wherever you go, north, south, west, east, you're going to get a toll. In fact, the M4 East Tunnel opens in coming weeks. There's another toll on that, so not just a toll on the M4, and a lot of people in Western Sydney don't know that.
Well, I'd hate to live in north-western Sydney and try and get to Mascot Airport. That'd cost you a fortune.
It would, and with WestConnex, of course. So let me give you an example. If you're coming from Parramatta into the city, you'll be paying on the M4 and the M4 East around $8. So if you're travelling in and out in the one day, that's $16 a day you're going to be paying in tolls.
It's a lot of money.
Many people don't know that that's coming. And when they introduce it, there is no toll-free month. It's just toll introduced straight away.
See, that really hurts.
It does really hurt, and it's targeting people in Western Sydney unfairly. And the reason why that toll has been put on the M4 is because they need that tolling revenue through the Sydney Motorway Corporation, which they've now sold. But that tolling revenue is actually paying for the rest of WestConnex, so Stage 3, which is the M4-M5 link. It's a kind of convoluted way they've structured the financing of the Sydney Motorway Corporation. And then they sold it early, and they're going to sell the second half.
And will they sell it at the right price?
Well, they sold the first half for around $9 billion. I think, you know, given they've got a structural deficit of around $39 billion, which is the largest in history, I think they're going to have to look at selling off more public assets. I reckon the Sydney Motorway Corporation...
I was going to say, there's not much left.
There is not much left.
It's all been flogged, hasn't it?
Well, $70 billion in assets. And, you know, the issue here is that you've got lost revenue. So you've got lost dividends, so $1.9 billion in lost revenue. And that's very obvious when you look at the budget, that that's going to have a huge impact going forward. But, you know, this debt, they haven't told us how they're going to pay it off. You know, with declining stamp duty revenue, I don't know what they're going to do. Just keep selling. Second stage of electricity, that's going to upset people.
The stamp duty revenue, of course, is always going to have peaks and troughs.
It's completely and utterly unreliable. Completely and utterly unreliable. And when it was at its peak, which was about $7 billion, it's on the decline now, but they went from about $3 billion to $7 billion, and they spent up big with that, and it's terribly unreliable.
Yeah, this is, you know, one of the problems.
Which is why they sell this.
You don't want this. You want a much flatter line.
You do, yeah.
And it's hard to come by. How do you plan to get that?
Well, can I also say that the issue they have as well is this $70 billion in assets that they've sold. They're one-off sugar hits. They're sugar hits. You get the hit up front, and then the asset is gone forever. So that's why they've lost so much revenue. I think it's a challenge for us, and I'm really concerned that when we take over in 23, and of course we are going to win that election, exactly what we're going to be left with. When we came out of government in 2011, the net deficit was $6 billion. If we take over in 2023, it'll be $39 billion.
Yeah, that's pretty hefty. And tell me, how do you differentiate yourself from from Michael Daly, the previous leader? What is going to be different about a Mackay-led opposition?
Well, obviously, the way I've come in, first of all, so we've got a mandate from our party membership and my caucus colleagues. This is an historic process in itself, so I've got a mandate to do what I want, and I've stamped that on the Shadow Cabinet today. I've made sure the decisions I've made are not factional decisions. There's no deals in this. This is very much about what I want and the people I want in the Shadow Cabinet. But, you know, for me, and I said this when the day after, because the vote went for so long, as you'll know, on that night. And then so on Monday, when I did the presser, I said I want us to be a big tent with a big heart. And for me, that's not just differentiating myself from Michael. More importantly, it's differentiating myself from Gladys, because I think she is transactional, she's hollow, there's a price on everything, a value on nothing. She's sold off all these assets. And I think that we're missing just a respect of people. They have this portfolio now, Richo, never would have happened in your day, a Minister for Customer Service. A Minister for Customer Service.
You're kidding.
So there are customers now, not citizens. Customer service.
That's pretty extraordinary.
We're going to have a shadow minister for better public services, because they're also axing about 2,500 public service jobs, which is shocking.
Frontline ones?
No. Well,
so where the public seat is when you're going to renew your licence or whatever.
Yeah.
Are those sort of things going to get harder?
Well, they say they're going to be back-end jobs, but, you know, I don't believe them at all. So I think that, you know, which is why Sophie Kotzis has taken over that portfolio of better public services, a new portfolio that I've put forward today, and her job will be to keep an eye on where those job cuts are coming. But this is what they're having to do. And, you know, we have lost so many good people out of the public service over the time that they've been in government. And I know from a transport perspective that there are many people that are working within, particularly, you know, driving buses, that fear for their jobs. There's another 3 regions they're going to privatise there. I met with the rail maintenance workers recently. Their jobs are going to be privatised. There is no...
What's wrong with the idea of having government buses?
Well, public transport, right?
Well, exactly, but there won't be any the way.
No. Andrew Constance is a really interesting minister. He has this ideological agenda on privatisation. When he privatised the Inner West buses, which is actually in my area, he indicated that there would be a better service, i.e. punctuality would be improved. But what we saw, in fact, is that it was actually worse. So we had the figures released about a month ago, and it's actually worse because you can't get around congestion. congestion. Parramatta Road is congested. It doesn't matter whether it's a private bus or a public bus, that road is still congested. But he wouldn't listen, and now he's been proved wrong.
Indeed he has.
And I enjoyed that, of course, proving him wrong.
I'm sure you did. Well, thanks very much for your time, Jodie. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Richard. Really good
I wish
to
you
be
well.
here. Thank you.
Big job, big task.
It is.
But
I promise I'm up to it.
I think I said to Jodie the other day that in my view, she'll probably be facing Dominic Perrottet because I can't see Gladys staying forever. You don't stay Premier forever. So if she goes, then logically it'd be Perrottet, who won't be any easy beat either. He's a smart guy. So I think New South Wales politics will be pretty interesting. It usually is.
I promise to make it interesting for you.
Good idea. Thanks very much.